This week, I thought that I was on the money. I had things ready to go. I was early. And some of you are smiling because if you know me, I am never early for anything. Ever. So if I come 2 minutes ahead of time, we're doing real well. And I'm working on that, and we're working on that. But this week, I had my sermon written on Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning! I know! It was fantastic. And it was just going to be great. And I had a wonderful point to it. And it was going to be, it's the 4th of July weekend, so it was going to be a wonderful feel-good, just pick me up, yay! We're all going to go home, and you can light your sparklers off and whatever, it'd be great. But then, Thursday, I got on Facebook, and somebody had posted there a story from a website. It had been reposted numerous times, 24/7 Wall Street or something like this. But anyway, there had been a ranking done of the worst places to live in the United States of America. The 50 worst. And there are a lot of places to live in the United States of America, aren't there? A lot. I've lived in probably 50. And you know what? We made it! Yeah, they ranked everybody, and there we were, number 21, Albany, Georgia, 21st worst place to live in the United States. If I asked for an amen, somebody would give it. Yeah, 21st worst, based on a number of criteria, but low wages, low-wage jobs, lack of education, an uneducated populace, not a lot of people with bachelor's degrees, not a lot of jobs available. The jobs that are don't pay a ton, and just demographic realities going on that all add up apparently to the fact that this is a bad place to be, which is depressing because I moved here. I didn't have to live here. I was somewhere else, and it wasn't on that list, but now I'm here, and I'm in one of the worst places in the country to live, apparently. But then on a more serious note, the next day, again, another terrorist attack. And it's almost getting to the point where they happen so often, and they're in the news so often, that it almost is starting to not affect you the same way as it did the last time, which is not how it should be, because these things are awful. And this one was hostages, and in the end, over 20 people dead, 20 hostages, 2 police officers, 13 were rescued, praise the Lord for that. But again, this weird and destructive and awful mix of fundamentalist religion and hate and nationalism and all these awful things and stereotypes and prejudices all add up to a big old question that hangs over all of it. From my original sermon was going to be great, wonderful point, big boppy, yay, let's all leave and cheer for one another and it'll be great. But then how does that apply to the real world? How does it make a difference? How does what we actually say and we preach make any difference at all? And so I had to go back to my original sermon and say, does it even fit? Like, does the main point from that sermon even make a difference when you're living in the 21st worst place in the country and the news just seems to be bad? And I think it does, but for me to make that point, I need 2 volunteers, and the requirement for these volunteers is that there has to be a reasonable expectation that they're going to live to the end of this demonstration. They can walk on their own, so John, David, and Jacob are out, and they have to be able to pronounce difficult words, that spelled difficult. That last one, everybody's like, oh my gosh, now I'm out too. You're not, just 2 people. All right, Blake Garrett, Marilyn, yes. Yeah, good. Yeah, come right up here in front of this wonderful flower arrangement. Your anniversary? Well, happy anniversary. July 4th, that's right. Happy anniversary. All right. Got something. Here we go. Marilyn, if you would hold that. Blake, hold that. And smile. Okay, wonderful. All right, what we have here, I went on Tuesday to, now I was still feeling very optimistic about Albany at that point, and I will tell you, we have a wonderful Walmart neighborhood market down on Gillionville, just down from Darton College. That's where I do most of my shopping. It's lovely. And so I needed some toothpaste. I need a little toothpaste. We're running out at the house. The wife and I are arguing a little bit about it. I squeeze the tube from the bottom like the instructions are. She squeezes from the middle. I thought there was more toothpaste than there was. We ran out, so I head to the store to get some toothpaste. The display is overwhelming. There are so many options. But my eyes are drawn to what has the best packaging, right? And Colgate Total, out of all the stuff, has the best packaging. And so, looking at the thing, now, Blake has just basic whitening. It's all right, Marilyn has fresh mint stripe Colgate Total. That's a little better, isn't it? Sounds a little better. But I have in my hands advanced fresh and whitening. Ha! So this tube of toothpaste, and look how much shinier my packaging is than Marilyn's. It is better. It's just better packaging. So mine is not just mine is not just the fresh stripe, but mine is the advanced fresh, better than Marilyn's, and whitening included. So this tube of toothpaste is like these two combined. And you know how it's better? It costs more. There is 6 ounces of toothpaste in each one of those, 5.8 ounces in this, and this costs $3.47, and this costs $2.96. And this is even on the next shelf up to emphasize how much better it is than the other two. But just for the fun of it, and I think you're going to have to flip it, get to the ingredient list here. I flipped these tubes around because I'm not one to spend a lot of money for something that's not worth it. So I said, well, what are the ingredients? Would you read, and we'll start with Blake and then go to Marilyn and me. What's the first ingredient? Water. Next. Hydrated silica. Go on. Glycerin. Keep going. Sorbitol. Oh. Keep going. That sounds great, doesn't it? You put this stuff in your mouth. PVMMA copolymer. You're getting the point, right? If you keep on going down the list, you will find glaring, awful differences. Like on my tube, flavor is up a little higher than on the other ones. So they boosted the flavor a little bit. You will find that the ultimate difference between these 3 tubes of toothpaste is that this has FD&C, blue number 1, and D&C, yellow number 10, and Blake's only has FD&C, blue number 1.
Well, I have FD&C, blue number 1, and D&C, yellow number 10.
I know, because these two are green. And blue and yellow make green. So the point, I stood there in our wonderful Albany Walmart neighborhood market and said, wait a second, they are charging 50 cents more for less of a tube of toothpaste that's exactly the same as the other 2 tubes of toothpaste. They're the same. These are just different colors. And the basic whitening is the same as the fresh stripe, which is the same as the advanced whitening. The only difference is this is flashier. That's it. Thank you. You guys are awesome. So, no, but and truly, if you need a tube of toothpaste, grab them. We don't need 3 in the house. But that really, that upsets me because most people don't stand there and read the labels obsessively. That's just weird people like me. But they shouldn't do that to people. That shouldn't be allowed. They're the same. Well, the issue that Paul's dealing with in Galatians in this last chapter of this letter is exactly that. He's trying to drive the point home. If you were here last week, you heard me read from the passage in Galatians where he talks about freedom, you're free. But they have these arguments going between Jewish Christians and Gentile Christians and those who are circumcised and those who are uncircumcised. And he says at the end of the day, and this is what I preached on last week, that look, nobody is automatically better than anybody else in the church. Nobody is automatically higher or have a better rank in the family of God than anybody else, because there is no such thing as a biological child of God. You are all adopted. And that's God's doing, not your own. And so you have no room to boast. None. And so Paul's point in this last chapter, which he is trying to drive home fully and finally, is in the church, there really is no ranking. There really is no person higher than another person. It doesn't matter how much blue number 1 or FD&C yellow 5 or some other chemical that you have. It doesn't matter what sparkles you have in your toothpaste and whether yours is green or blue or whatever. When it comes right down to it, there is one Jesus, one Lord, one God and Father of us all, who is the one who calls and saves. So stop differentiating yourselves based on who is circumcised or who eats this or who eats that or who doesn't eat this or who says this right number of prayers or does this or that. And so you just got my entire first sermon. That was pretty much it. And so I was going to say to you, like, look at yourselves. One of the things that draws me to this church, it was, I didn't know how bad Albany was to live in, apparently, before I found out. And the PNC didn't give, those rankings weren't out when the nominating committee was doing their work. So they didn't pass those along to me. But this church, even from looking at pictures of this church online, I need to tell you all, if you don't already know it, that you as a people have absolutely no business being in the same room as one another. Like, you don't. I was reading yesterday for this Doctor of Ministry class that I'm going to after worship. I'm here next Sunday, and then I drive to Decatur for this class. And I'm studying congregational dynamics. How can you identify what a congregation's identity is, what they think their identity is? And I read this whole long paragraph about how congregations are going to look the same, they're going to have the same social realities and same economic demographics and all this sort of thing, because people will, when they're voluntarily organized, they will voluntarily organize into groups that are the same as them. And I wrote in the margin, not us. Like, is this a perfect union? Of course not. But all you have to do is look around to realize the variance in income levels, in economic background, in educational background, in family heritage, and the stories of where you came from. And so Paul's message to the Galatians is one that we need to hear over and over and over again, that there is no ranking, there's nothing. Not how long you've been in the church, not how brief a period you've been in the church, not how wonderful your backstory is, or how long you've been a Christian, or if you're the first one in the door or the last one out on Wednesday night or whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is Jesus. He's the one who's called. He is at the center of this whole thing, and it is through Him alone that you are adopted, and you are adopted. So let's be a church together. And there's where my first sermon ended. Be united. Unity, unity, unity. But then we find out we live in a terrible place, and terrorism keeps happening. So, like, be united in the United States of America on the 4th of July just started to sound a little hollow. So I went back to Galatians, to that chapter you just heard, to read it again. And his last line is what sticks out to me. Again, this is the last thing he wants people to hear. Not the may the grace of the Lord. That's just him saying, like, sincerely, Paul. The statement right before it, that sentence. He's been on and off for this entire letter telling you why you don't need to be circumcised and why it doesn't matter and whatever. And you can almost feel him and hear him at the end of this in frustration. Like, you know, we have the phrase now, the mic drop. You finish and you just drop the mic. You can feel him ready. He's writing, and he's already said to him, look what big letters I use when I write. He has a scribe who's been writing the letter for him, and then it's like he takes the pen out of the scribe's hand and says, no, they need to know that this is me writing this last thing. He says, see what big handwriting I have, and I'm writing to you directly now. And the very last thing he says is, circumcision and uncircumcision. Being circumcised or not being circumcised doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. What matters is a new creation. All this other stuff, all the divisions, all the things, all the whatever that we build each other up by or break each other down by, it doesn't matter. All that matters is the new creation. And if you don't know what he means by that, you miss it. But new creation is a concept in Paul that I've hit in sermons 100 times, but he's got this idea that Jesus didn't just come to save individuals or to save the church or whatever. Jesus came to do a cosmic bringing back together of everything, the broken creation being brought back together, being healed. And so there is this cosmic galaxy, universe reality going on through Jesus, that all the things are being brought back together and healed through him. And included in that healing is all the bad, evil, nasty in the world is being healed and brought together. And if you wanted to go smaller than that, all the bad, evil, gruesome things happening in the nation are being brought together, and all the bad, gruesome, awful things happening in the city of Albany are being brought back together in Jesus, because in Jesus everything lives and moves and has its being. And that's what he's talking about. All this other stuff, it simply does not matter. All that matters is this new creation that Jesus is bringing to life in the world. So if that's all that matters, why does this matter? Why does being united here in the church matter? Because in Paul's belief system and in the New Testament, it is here in the church where new creation is learned. The church is supposed to be like a new creation lab, where we test out how the new creation happens, where we live out what relationships are supposed to look like in the church. Brothers and sisters together for one goal. We learn what it's like to be united. And so this church is where new creation happens. And then that church is supposed to go out into its city and its neighborhood and take the new creation to them. And then that goes out into the nation, that goes out into the world. And eventually Jesus brings together everything in this cosmic universe reality. And so if we are not united in the church, new creation doesn't happen at its most basic, most fundamental level. And so unity here, how we interact with one another here, has cosmic implications. And so, this isn't my original sermon. This is your go charge into the world and do good things portion of it. And I don't know that I have a go charge into the world and do good things, because the reality is there are lots of organizations already doing good things. And if that were going to solve everything, it would be solved by now. I look around at many of you, like here in Albany, which, by the way, I've lived in a lot of places. Every place kind of feels like the best place on earth to live and the worst place on earth to live. But that's not the point. Like here in Albany, which I've been here long enough now, I can see a little bit of it. I don't totally understand it, but I'm falling in love with it kind of thing. Like, hey, I kind of love you. Let's have a good relationship together. But you can be part, and many of you are, of the Salvation Army or Kiwanis or whatever, Rotary, all these wonderful organizations. You can do good things. And man, keep those things going. But only one thing I'm sure of, and it's this. There is only one organization in town. There's only one organization in our country, and there's only one organization in the world who has in its mission statement, live out the new creation and take the new creation into the world. And that's us. So I put on our Facebook page a little picture, and you can look at it today when you go home. It says, if we don't care, or if we will not care, who will? If we're the only ones taking the good news of the new creation in Jesus into Albany, into the United States, into this world, and we don't do it, who will? Who will? And it starts here with this amazing church full of people from completely divergent backgrounds living the new creation out together. Amen.